Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Seventh Man podcast. I'm Will Beverina, and I run Dimer2K.com and write about the NBA 2K League.
I am Josiah, otherwise handled as AJ113 at OS, and I write, unsurprisingly, for Operation Sports and for TSN, also covering the NBA 2K League.
Back for episode 7. You can check out all of our previous episodes on the YouTube channel. As always, we want to thank everyone who has listened to any of the episodes so far. The support is always appreciated. I said last week I was going to try to be putting the podcast up on iTunes. I've been saying it the past couple weeks, and I failed miserably. But this week, I'm pretty sure I got it and know what to do. So hopefully, some of you are listening to this right now on iTunes or some platform other than YouTube. If not, then I failed again, and I'm pretty much the worst human being ever for that. But let's talk about week 10. Uh, every single time we do this, Josiah, I say that the week we're talking about was an interesting one. And most weeks in this league are genuinely interesting. Week 10 takes the cake for interesting weeks. We had triple overtime, a team scoring 100 plus points, and someone scoring 84 points on their own, all in the same game. All those were league first in the same game. Then on top of that, we had another team score 102 points in regulation and then another double overtime game. We never had any double overtime games before this week. Never had any team score 100 points, and both happened twice this week. All of that on top of the usual ridiculousness of the playoff race, teams surprisingly falling further, teams crawling their way back into the playoff picture. I think this week was crazier than the ticket, Josiah.
This week was certainly insane. I'm glad it gave us a little clarity toward the playoff push. We had travel delays, which really have been barely seen before. And one thing that strikes me right now is that in one of my TSN columns, I had a little segment at the end that I called the Race to 100, where I wondered who would be the team to crack the 100 barrier. And I suggested that it might be the 76ers. I said it might be against Knicks Gaming, and they, of course, lost that game in week 8. But I suggested that it might have to happen against a truly weak defensive team, such as Grizz Gaming, cough, cough. And I said, keep an eye on 76ers GC. And so while it took 3 overtimes, and so I claim zero credit for, it just is remarkable as uh, a topos of something that does happen and yet at the same time is completely insane, which I think is a good way to sum up the inaugural NBA 2K League season.
Yeah, let's talk about that 76ers Grizz game because I'm going to go out there and say that this was the best game we've seen in the NBA 2K League. Do you agree with that?
There's so many good ones.
I mean,
Yeah, I think until we see like a serious come from behind buzzer beater, then probably
triple OT,
triple. I mean,
100 points.
you can't say you know me. I'm not a huge 5 out guy to
Yeah,
put it. So
neither of us
no,
are.
but this was a great game. This is certainly a top 3 game for the season.
It wasn't just all of that. It was actually incredibly tense. This game somehow made the shot creating slasher 5 out like exciting with how close it was at the end with
Somehow, yes.
exactly. That's, as good an indicator as any that this was a good game. Um, but uh, Authentic African took Authentic African and the Grizz fighting for their playoff lives. All right, they came into this 5-6. 76ers gaming trying to end their own skid. They came into it 7-4, had a couple losses, bad losses. So, they're trying to, stake their claim as a top 3, top 4 team in this league. And the game didn't disappoint at all. Authentic African and Grizz Gaming taking the shot creating slasher 5 out to a level that we've never seen before. Just shamelessly running it through Authentic African every single possession. Um,
Yeah.
what did you, yeah, what did you see this game, Josiah?
Um, it's very hard to look past the sheer scale of shooting 40 for 55 from the field uh,
Yeah,
for 84 points, and only three other players scoring none more than 4 points apiece. Um, but I'm glad the non-five out ball won out in the end. Though again, shout out to Authentic. You know, they stuck him on Radiant for a not insignificant portion of the game, and he's a good defender. But Radiant still with three overtimes was able to put up a remarkable 30 and 23, looking more like he did earlier in the season. Steez to really return to form, and for those who want to ridicule Feast for not for allowing 84 points to his man, I say that's a
you can't. You can't.
ridiculous thing to say, because you won the game first of all, which in sort of justifies the means, um, but also, I mean, their plan was not to allow threes. They allowed what is it, 1 for 9. Um, did I mention they won the game? And Authentic African is a top 5 player in the league, and so you're gonna have trouble guarding him. And what he put up in regulation wasn't so astoundingly more than what other shot creating slashers have put up in regulation as well. So and you know, Feast forced enough stops in overtime, in the third overtime, to get the win. So it's absolutely ridiculous to pin 84 points on him.
I mean, we saw it all these Twitter pro am warriors saying stuff like, I would never watch someone drop 50 on me, or I would never watch someone drop 50 on my teammate, or why aren't they baiting or double teaming or switching or anything like that. You would watch him drop 50 plus on you. You would watch him drop 50 plus on your teammate, because you have never faced the shot creating slasher post patch in a 5 out in the NBA 2K league.
Right.
You would absolutely get dropped off. And the whole, oh, you just need to double team him and play some help defense. We saw it just a couple games later, or the next day on Saturday, what the Wizards tried to do. They tried to, double team hot shot. Heat goes 11 for 14 from 3. So let's stop this about what you would or wouldn't do in the league. You have absolutely no clue what you're talking about, and that sounds harsh, but it's true. These are guys who practice on the build every single day. I'm assuming specifically practice trying to stop this build, knowing you're going up against Authentic African or Hot Shot. So let's chill on, just looking at numbers and saying, oh, he had 84, so Feast had an awful game. Feast was playing some good defense, especially in those overtimes where it really mattered. That third overtime, he came up big. And Authentic African only had 2 points in that third overtime, Josiah.
Right. And I think as someone who likes to dive into the tactics and the exact strategies, the you pointing out what the Wizards did to try and combat Hotshot is an excellent counterexample. Hotshot absolutely torched the Wizards the next day, finding his teammates for open threes. The Wizards pinched way too early. Often they they were poor in transition. They had blinders on really in trying to stop Hotshot. And as you said, 11 for 14. You can't allow that by any stretch of the imagination, especially when you yourself are running a 5 out shot creating slasher. And so, yeah, look, there are ways to probably hold a player to below 84 points on a shot creating slasher. I think but you need to be perfect. You need to have extremely timely rotations. Everyone needs to be in sync on defense, and I mean, again, at the end of the day, you got the win. Yes, you probably could have held them to fewer points, but again, minimal threes, and that was their game plan, and they stuck to their game plan. And again, identity, integrity. I was going to say those two words. They win you games. They win you games, and when you play with them, you win games. Did I mention that? And so, yeah, again, I think there are ways to limit the shot creating slasher, but this was the path they chose. They stuck to it, and they came out victorious.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, we haven't seen the shot creating slasher 5 out to this level. Like
This was committed. This was seriously
this,
committed.
yeah, it was just uh, Authentic African's teammates were only touching the ball just to reset and to give it back to Authentic African. And occasionally they'd put up like a contested shot. Universal Phenom 0 for 5 from 3. So,
Yeah,
uh,
missing
I
a
mean,
few ones there. Those
yeah.
to look back at.
I mean, like the 76ers, this was kind of like they started out, I don't know, it was kind of an up and down game for them, I think. Like they started out, they were kind of doing what I said they should be doing and shooting a bunch more threes with the buff shooting on this patch, but Nudini was kind of forcing up some bad ones, some really long ones. But Radiant was getting back to what he usually does and driving in, and he was being a little more aggressive with the scoring and popping those mid range shots. And Radiant's performance in this kind of got overshadowed, I think, because of the 84 points. He dropped 30 and 23, yeah, in triple overtime, but he was absolutely controlling this game, and he was back to his pre-patch excellence with the decision making and the controlling the offense and running the offense and controlling the tempo.
Yeah, he really was. He absolutely was. And Jeff Terrell, the White Kite 23, did a great job in getting him more space to just do what he does best. And I'm gonna say what I didn't like about the 76ers offense in their previous game. I'm gonna shamelessly plug an article that's coming out on Operation Sports either tonight or tomorrow. But the main point is that Radiant just works better when he has more space, and they got him that space at the top of the arc in Week 9 against the Heat. Their standard set, which didn't I think work so well, was that they had him really running the pick and roll with Feast on the left wing, which in the end wound up getting Feast a lot of buckets, but just limited Radiant's mobility and his effectiveness and his prowess in coming off a screen for or going around a pick for a 3-pointer. And so the idea was that okay, we'll run the pick and roll, Feast will roll down low, and then that'll drag help away from the man in the corner, and the man in the corner is C's on a sharpshooting rim protector, which conveniently is poised to defend against Hotshot. But man makes plans and God laughs. So they got Radiant more space in this one, and he returned to his top tier form, which is the best thing for 76ers fans to see.
Yeah, if the Grizz had any sort of semblance of defense, they probably would have won this game. I was watching the 76ers run a bunch of plays to get these wraps and screens to get their shooters open and get their bigs open. And the Grizz just had no idea how to defend any of that. Just no organization, no rotations, just looking completely lost. And it allowed the 76ers to get a lot of big threes in overtime.
Yeah, it
And
was tough to see, and at times in weeks past, the Grizz have made the decision to just switch everything. But there's only so much you can do when you know yes, the 76ers can set an off-ball screen to get a pure sharp open, but it's all the more easier to get that uncontested three off if the pure sharp gets 2 or 3 steps on his defender, which was the case for too many of these 3-pointers. the defense has to be just a little bit tougher. You got to respond quickly. You got to play to win. Defense is so important. This is a high scoring league, and this is an offense driven league, but defense is so important.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm trying to do some quick math on how the Sixers shot from three. Radiant 2 for 6, ZDS 3 for 7, Nudini 4 for 10. So that's what 9 for 23. So it's not like they shot the lights
And how
out.
many how
It
many of
was
those came in overtime? Probably they shot a
yeah.
better percentage. I was
That's that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's just the ones they did hit came at the most inopportune times. And I think there was even a late one in regulation that Nudini hit to tie it. I may be remembering wrong though. Those that the end of the game and the overtimes just kind of run in together. But this was like it was kind of like a little taste of the vintage Sixers, I would say this game was.
yeah no good on them for getting back on track, and they had no need to panic as I hope we agreed upon in past times.
I said last week maybe it is time. I don't know. I can't remember though.
Yeah, let's give you the benefit of the doubt.
I think I was mostly like it's fine, but there was like just a creeping little doubt I think after last week. But yeah, I like I said, I think this is game of the year without a doubt. I don't think we'll ever see anyone break 84 unless they just blatantly try to break it just with absolutely no shame about it.
Kobe is obligatory.
I was gonna ask
It's
you.
obligatory. No, that it's. I agree. It's gonna take some overtimes to beat it for sure, and I do not expect the shot creating slasher to be as powerful next season as it is this season. And
Oh
so
no.
I think yes, it will take a particularly individualistic effort to supersede this marker.
Well, I was gonna ask you, Josiah. Did it feel good? Did it feel like you got some vengeance to watch a fellow Canadian eclipse Kobe's 81? Because if you didn't know, Josiah,
I was bet
Kobe
I
Bryant
re-
scored 81
all
points
right.
against the Toronto Raptors.
All right. Well, for, I remember waking up to that game and it seemed surreal. I also saw LeBron score 56 on us in his first stint in Cleveland, but that's by the by. I mean, yeah, but like, why couldn't someone from Raptors Uprising? Why couldn't we have saved it for someone on Raptors Uprising to do against whichever Los Angeles team we get next year? Why not? Why not that?
I mean, it could happen if the expansion teams are really bad.
The expansion team's
You could.
not going to be bad. They're not going to be
Uh,
bad at all. I
well, we.
I think
I mean, we got to see.
this is more a hockey situation.
You think so?
Yeah, I, the
You,
way
I going as far as to say an expansion team could make the
I'm
finals,
not no
like
no
in
no, no but
hockey.
they're not going to be bad.
Okay.
I don't think this is going to be one of those. I don't even know which era. This is not going to be the 1974 Buccaneers or whatever, where they were just absolutely atrocious because they were an expansion team for the first couple of years. This is not going to happen. Teams are not going to be able to protect so many players as to make it very difficult for expansion teams. It's not going to happen. They're going to
Well,
be
you say
they're
that,
going to
but
be good.
we don't know yet.
They're going to be good.
We don't know
They might
yet.
not make the playoffs, but my point is they're not going to be bad. They're not going to be especially
Uh,
bad because they're expansion teams. There's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be a learning curve.
well, that's what I was about to say. There's a lot to be said for having a season's worth of experience.
Right, but they're
I
going
don't
to
know.
have
We
my expectation is that they're going to have four players who they could have three or four players, let's say, who have that experience. Right?
maybe we don't
We
know.
don't know.
We have no clue. Uh, shall we move on? Do you have anything? Do you have any more to say about 76ers, Chris?
No, I think I've exhausted the tank.
Yeah, crazy game. Let's move on to Celtics crossover gaming versus Pacers gaming, though. Celtics crossover going into this 6-5. They they got really lucky to win last week, as we said, and they're especially lucky now because if they had lost last week, they'd be in real trouble when it comes to the playoffs. But 6-6 after a 102-68 loss to Pacers Gaming. Pacers Gaming scored 102 points in regulation, Josiah. They almost matched the 76ers without 3 overtimes. What'd you see in this game?
I mean, it's frankly remarkable that the Pacers were the team to score 100 points. But you know that I'm not unhappy about that by any means. I'm thrilled. I'm enthused.
You know a team
I'm
that has
eager.
integrity and
Oh,
identity.
music,
Pacers Gaming.
music to my ears. Music to my ears. They run real plays. They're not the only ones by any means, by far. They're not the only ones, but they run plays. They run a lot of plays, and they shoot and they think and they play defense. And man, Swizzerk was good. He was so good. Oh, it was a joy to watch him shoot. Coming off screens, off in horn sets, in whatever they threw at the Celtics. The Celtics could not handle it on defense, and Shockey continues to be a revelation. Not quite on the level of King Cam, but just he fits so well. I think it was helpful for him to have a month of practice and a month of practice, may I mention, on a structured team, a team with identity and integrity. And I mean, he put up a double double, but he also added 7 assists and 6 steals. That's terrific. Um,
Pretty good.
I think that the Pacers they worked at such great variation in their plays. All these different little actions in overall sets, and the 76 and the Celtics, excuse me, weren't prepared for it. I guess is the only explanation. They didn't have that first step. Maybe it's sort of like they had a bye week, and it cost them badly because they were supposed to play Friday night, but that didn't go so well. And the Pacers, I guess, just came in extra rejuvenated and looked phenomenal, decisive, incisive. It was incredible to watch.
Yeah, you talk about Swizzerk. 7 of 12 from three. Gooner, the point guard turned pure sharp, 6 of 9 from three. He had 23 points. Swizzerk, by the way, 31 points. Wolf, 22 points, 17 assists. He's been incredible, honestly, at point guard. And Frosty the Truth, the near triple double, 12 points, 14 rebounds, missed it by 1 assist. I mean, this was just like the perfect game for this. This was like the most perfectly played game probably that we've seen in the NBA 2K League.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I am not sure. I'm trying to think if there's any player, any single player, more comfortable at the elbow than Frosty. I'm not sure that there is. They might have some contention from the Magic, but um, it's a joy to watch. And they benefited a lot from Fab putting up a lot of shots. His numbers look good, but they weren't so good in the fine print. Wolf has been terrific. He's been, and if they played better earlier in the season, if their record had been better, he'd probably be getting a little MVP talk. Um, but
Ooh.
but yet, they're just a great shooting performance from the entire team. Did I mention the great plays? Um, as to Gunnar, it's so nice to function in a system where you don't have to any longer be the focal point. There's someone who can take it over, but that doesn't mean you're entirely kicked to the curb. You know, as some teams, if you're out of the rotation, if you're out of the scoring rotation, as it were, you kind of get kicked to the curb. But Gunnar's been able to piece it together. They get him integrated. They have some great plays for him. Oh, they run so many off-ball screens. It works so well. It's so nice to watch. It's so and the Celtics, frankly, they run a lot of off-ball screens too. Speedbrook only had 3 attempts in this game, which is a big problem. They're going to want to rectify that for the next one, and I'm sure they will, since he has a real knack for catching people in animations going around screens. But yeah, the Pacers just played so well and got rewarded for it.
Yeah, talking about those off-ball screens when I was at the ticket a couple weeks ago. I can't remember who they played in the first round. The
The,
Wizards,
the
maybe?
Grizz, the
The
Celtics
Grit?
played the Grizz.
No, talk about the
Oh, the
Pacers.
Pacers played
Sorry.
the Mavs. They played five
Played
out
the Mavs.
Mavs. Yeah.
I can't remember if it was someone on the Mavs or someone else that I overheard talk about the Pacers gaming off-ball screens, saying that they were something serious, and you can see it in the game. They're just constantly running something.
Well, the Mavs know what an off-ball screen is. Wow. All right. Well, you learn something new every day. Um,
Wow.
back to my
Wow.
hot taking on the no. That's slight hyperbole, but one play that has really lost its luster for the Mavs is they had their own version of the Speedbrook cut back around the screen, and they ran it with ball leg seam with efficiency earlier on in the season in Dime's first stint at point guard. But when he went on the shot creating slasher, they tried to run it with Dime setting the screen, and it was absolutely terrible. It did not work a single time that I can remember, and I looked at it a lot. That was the play that you know sort of sealed the deal in their loss to the Cavs in the ticket, and it just hasn't found its mojo again. And Seam had gotten, I think, pretty good at catching people on the screen. He's not as good as Speedbrook, but he was quite good at it. But that's just a play that has fallen by the wayside. And yeah, they would benefit a lot more from a lot more off ball screens. No, so of course they know what it is. But yeah, look, my philosophy at this point can basically boils down to the more off ball action you run, the better. So I want the Mavs doing more of that.
You know what the Mavs need? Identity
And
and
integrity,
integrity.
yes, yes, good. That is the answer. That is definitely what they need. 100%.
Uh, big game for the Pacers. They're now 5-6 after starting out 0-4. So just imagine if they had actually figured it out within the first quarter of the season. And if they make the playoffs, which they could, they absolutely could make the playoffs, they're going to be trouble for some team who's near the top. So, going to be fun to see how they do from here on out. And like you mentioned, Speedbrook, awful game. Just got 3 attempts, only 1 attempt from three, didn't hit it. And his man scored a lot of buckets on him.
Yeah. Um, Looking ahead for the Pacers, they have 3 games remaining, which is more than the average too, and 2 of those games are eminently winnable against the Warriors and the Kings. But they've
Ooh.
also they've also got one against Blazer 5 in there, which is probably not good to look forward to.
Now, is that Blazer 5 game in the last
In the
week?
last week, yes. So,
Well,
so a
maybe
little a little
maybe Blazer
NFL
5
Week
is on cruise
17 action.
control. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what games are going to be huge in Week 12 though. Besides
What's that?
besides for all of them, uh,
Right.
just listen to the Saturday slate for Week 12.
Hit me.
Heat check against the Raptors,
Ooh.
huge game. That's probably
Yeah.
especially for the Raptors. Then we got Magic against Cavs Legion,
Ooh.
big game. Then there's that Pacers Blazer 5. Then we've got Grizz against Heat. That's going to be interesting to watch in terms
Another 5 out
of
fest, you
philosophy.
mean?
Yes. Um, but the Grizz will be playing for pride at the very least. And then
Well,
no, they're
okay,
not
go
out. They're
ahead.
not out. I said
No,
very
no.
least.
We'll
And
talk about that
we'll
later.
talk about that later. And then the 5 o'clock game is Celtics against Magic.
Ooh.
which could either spell the end for Celtics or a new beginning, as it were.
Oh, I can't wait. We're so close. Oh, oh, this is getting so juicy. Well, let's talk about the rest of week 10 then. Uh, not going as in depth as we just did for those two games, but Bucks Gaming 81, Knicks Gaming 90.
I was sad to see the Bucks lose, but I feel like they got away from a lot of what made them a good team. They they really hedged too much on the Adam and Goofy pick and roll, and Goofy made them pay the price, putting up 40 points on nearly perfect shooting. Tacked on 13 rebounds. Adam had 16 assists, and still managed to shoot 5 9. Um, just felt like the Bucks were grasping a little bit, and now at least they have the luxury of sitting back and just playing around for the purpose of next year, because that is the death knell for them.
Well, I said last week it was the nail in the coffin when they lost, and you tried to argue,
Yeah, well, this is the
but
nail in the coffin.
well, it's been hammered in
The,
pretty firmly,
yeah, this
I
the
think we can
nail
say.
was hammered in.
On the bright side for the Bucks, how about the resurgence of Drake Griffin? He's been playing really well lately.
Yeah, yeah, he's been solid. I'm not complaining.
He had a 2020 game, I believe, here.
He did indeed, and they lost by 9. What happened to the Bucks? What happened to the Bucks defense? They
Well,
were a good defensive team early in the season, and then it feels like, I think I'm gonna try and look back very quickly, but I think they've given up 80 plus points um, in at least 3 straight weeks. Let's see. Since all right, no, since the ticket, they have they gave up too many points, and even before the ticket, in a little bit, but whatever. Nail in the coffin.
well, talk about identity and integrity. I think the Bucks are down there for teams with identity and integrity. How many different lineups have they run this season? They've got to be up there
Yeah, too many.
in the league for the most different lineups they've trotted out.
Yeah, they've had too many core lineup shifts, switching point guards to shot creating slashers, centers to shot creating slashers, centers to point guards. But they've also had too many of those little gratuitous switches, taking STL off center for this game, switching him with Big Meek or whatever. I don't remember. Too many of
Yeah, you can't even keep track.
yeah, too many of those little gratuitous lineup changes as well.
Yeah, and I don't think they got Larry involved enough in the offense all season, and it really hurt them.
Larry's your guy too.
Larry is my guy. Shout out to Larry. I hold him near and dear to my heart. Magic Gaming 74, Mavs Gaming 58.
Go Magic Gaming. I am firmly on the bandwagon. Too late. Um, but I am watching the Mavericks bandwagon fall further and further behind, as I somehow surmised. Um,
Somehow.
somehow, some sort of prescience. Yeah, the Magic ran a lot of plays in this one, which was great to see. King Cam, 17 rebounds, which was great. It's pretty easy to terrorize for him now, it seems. Control was good. I mean, they were all good. Manny, phenomenal game. Um, I'm not sure that Nacho is the permanent answer, um,
I don't think he
because I
is.
think they might want more defense when the playoffs come around. But I give him full credit for being able to step into the lineup well. Notice how it's easier to step into the lineup for a team that runs plays. Yeah,
You mean a team that has identity and integrity?
exactly. Those are the words that were at the forefront of my mind. And yeah, so in terms of the Magic Mavs game, the team with more identity and integrity won the game handily.
Yeah, we kind of asked the question last week of like who do you start on this Mavs team? Still surprised they haven't gone with DeVillin. Haza not looking great. JLB going 1 for 7.
They ran Haza at the shooting guard, did they not? I
Uh,
misremembered.
I
I think they switched ball like seam to the 3.
I don't remember, to be quite
I
honest
think they
with you.
did, and I think it rankled my cognizance when they did it, but I could be wrong, so I won't comment further on it.
Well, you're a ball like seam fan,
I am a ball like seam fan, yeah.
so you like him to stay put at shooting guard and let him do his thing, I imagine.
Well, yeah, let him do his thing, give him the opportunity to do his thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Mavs Gaming, 11th place, 5-7. They've lost 5 straight. Uh, Real shame for a team with that much talent, you got to say. Um, Heat Check Gaming, 95. Wizards District, 77.
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier just how much Hotshot eviscerated a Wizards this defense that wasn't playing at its best. Um, and shout out to Majestic playing some great D. He fit into the position, really well for his first time going at it in the league. And big win for the Heat. Third time's the charm going up against the Wizards. And they are really firing on all cylinders. Um, Especially the cylinder that is Hotshot, who put up another 23 for 27 shooting performance.
Yeah, this game was the poster child for the problems with the 5 out,
They only missed 8
in
shots in
that,
the game.
yes. And when you're down like that, it's hard to come back, especially when the other team is both doing what you're doing and still shooting 11 of 14 from three. So you can't just bad game. Wizards got blown out. Hotshot just outplayed the entire Wizards district team, 23 for 27, 10 assists to go on top of his 51 points. And Heat Check, we talk about the 5 out. I at least give them some credit because they actually mix in some stuff. Like last week, I believe, they ran some sort of double screen on Radiant where he couldn't even get by the two people just because he was just caught forever in animations, and they do different things with that 5 out
Absolutely.
to Heat Check's credit.
And the Wizards have in the past run some action like with Jin cutting to the bucket from the corner as Reese wheels down to that very corner. But you know, once they got down, they couldn't come back. Most
Yeah,
of them.
Heat Check just runs it
Heat
better.
check is a better team.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are. So Wizards at 6-6 now. Heat Check cruising 4 wins in a row, 7-4, and they've beaten a lot of good teams doing it. Every single team they've beaten on this win streak is a good team. So they look pretty good for the playoffs. Top 4 right now.
All right.
I'd probably
Yeah.
pencil them down as a contender for the title at the
All right. You
moment.
you fulfilled your obligation to lavish praise on the Heat.
I mean, with the way they're playing
You know
though,
what I'm talking about. Uh,
no,
no, they're a team much deserving of praise, um, as you say.
I don't think there's a single team hotter. So yeah, 4-game win streak is tied for the highest win streak right now. But Wizards, I don't know. Do they stick with the 5 out or do they try something different?
I think they stick with it, um, and it pains me to say that almost, but Boo is a really good player. He's a really good scorer, and I think what Wizards should focus on is getting the first 3 minutes of the game down pat, and getting out to a lead. Coming out swinging, and then you can start to transition into that full on 5 out. But win those first 3 minutes, and you put yourself in a very good position.
Yeah. Blazer 5, 79, Jazz Gaming 75.
Where was Tiffy in this one? Exactly,
I don't know.
exactly. Um,
Did he play?
no, he
No, he
did not.
didn't play.
No, which seemed. I mean, I feel like he would have been a good person to have going up against a relatively traditional team. Um, Look, when Mama and Walnut are doing well, and when the two-headed monster that is Grant and Lavish are getting involved, that you can't beat the Blazers.
Is it time? I mean, it probably has been time, I would imagine, to just not call this a big three anymore on Blazer 5. Not that Shots didn't have a good game, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 7-11 for shooting, but I think this is pretty firmly Mama and Walnut's team by now.
Yeah, absolutely. It, I think it's been that way for a little bit now. It's certainly their team, and again, no offense at all to Schatz, who's been a great player, a perfect third option, but just that, a third option.
Probably the best third option in the league.
I'm racking my brains to see if there's another one. Um, One of them. He's one of them.
He's up
He's
there.
up there. He's definitely up there.
Jazz continue their slide down the standings. They're in the same position as Mavs Gaming, losing 5 in a row, 5-7, sitting at 12th right now on point differential over Grizz Gaming. Boy, I mean the Jazz and the Mavs at different points during this season, I wrote that they're probably in there for title contention, and it just all fell apart for both of them. And they've got outside shots at making the playoffs, but when you factor in how terrible they're doing, and that can't be good for confidence.
Yeah.
So I don't see either of them making it at this
No,
point.
they're fifth and sixth in line for the number 7 seed. It's and frankly they're tied with Grizz, right? So
Yep.
fifth and seventh probably. So yeah, it's not looking good.
Yeah. Real shame because there's a lot of talent on both teams. Wizards District 61, Warriors Gaming 58.
I think I saw Coach Tommy go on a rant about
Yes.
people not fully appreciating what Type brought to the table, and Type put up 20 points on 7 of 17 shooting, 4 of 13 from behind the arc. I didn't really study this game, so I'm not going to speak to that with any professed um, depth of knowledge, but they just got to shoot better as a team. They shot well under 50% as a team, and you don't win like that, especially when you know that the Wizards can just put up points, as Boo Painter once again did.
Yeah, well, we talked about last week. Was it last week that they sat Vert?
Yeah, yeah,
And
that was the yeah.
this week they sat like a pro. So I think they are
They're
just,
planning for next year.
yeah, planning for next year. This officially eliminated them from the playoffs mathematically. First team to be eliminated. Talking about Type, I don't think he was on a shooting build,
No, no.
which,
If I recall correctly, he was on a slashing defender.
yeah, which should never be taking 13
Yeah,
threes.
that I think is more the idea. But frankly, if if that's the way the Wizards game plan, then they did it right. Uh,
Well, they left him open,
exactly, exactly,
which you should.
right, exactly. And no, I mean it's tough. And one positive note I will make is that this is an example of how picking archetypes in the league is very much a chess match, because there is an appeal of having a sharpshooting defender, um, but that build is smaller, and so is less likely to be able to hang with a shot creating slasher. Whereas this one, not as proficient on offense, but has more size and capability in a sense of checking the SCS. So yeah, no, it's a good set of options to have to play with and juggle and try and figure out which one works for you. And this one didn't.
This was the Warriors' 7th loss by 4 points or less out of 9 losses. They haven't they haven't lost by more than 4 points since May. Really interesting season for Warriors gaming where I won't say a few plays go the way. It'd have to be a lot of plays in those 7 4-point or less losses, but yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. That's just probably the most interesting stat right now of the league. Pistons 74, Jazz Gaming 64.
As I questioned in my little preview thread, I wasn't sure that the Jazz could handle the so far ahead and let's get a Ramo pick and roll. And while they did manage to do it pretty well for the first 3 quarters, it kind of fell apart in the fourth quarter. And the Pistons also kind of turned to their shot creating slasher, whom they very much don't prioritize, which is nice to see. Insanity put up points, but you know that those are 3 scoring options. No one there is particularly dominant. I've been very impressed by Ramo as the season has gone along. He put up a big double double, but that pick and roll just lasted longer than the Jazz could keep up with, and the Jazz didn't shoot so well in this one, and again, it's just been that kind of second half for them.
Yeah, I gotta apologize to the Pistons. I came down really hard on them after that 1 week where they lost twice and said all this stuff about their offense and this isn't a team that can score a lot, so when they get scored on they're just screwed. Well, 74 points is above average. They've been pretty good on offense, and they did it without relying on 3-pointers. Rux, who's been pretty hot lately on that pure sharp, 1 of 5 from 3, but yeah, getting Insanity more involved in the offense, pretty good. Pretty good. The results are pretty good. We all know about Ramo. He's always going to get 20 plus, it seems. And so far ahead, just a solid rock running that offense. Pistons are 8-3 right now, Josiah. Feels like they're 8-3 and in second place, and it feels like no one's talking about them, including us. Feels like no one's talking about them. What's up with that?
They don't have, well, as much as Ramo is a well deserved first option and first round pick. He doesn't have the scoring statistics that Authentic African or Hotshot or Boot Painter does. Um, so
It's
I
true.
think that would be the main one. And their best strength is still defense, which is still not showy and doesn't get a lot of press.
Yeah, who the hell cares about defense?
Not enough teams.
I want to see points, baby. Score. No, I'm joking.
Ha! Funny. Ha! Ha! Ha!
But like I said, this offense suddenly looks at least average now, which is like that may be all they need is just an average offense
Right?
for this team to make a deep
Right.
run in the playoffs.
Right.
So, Jazz season is probably over. That's a shame.
They will improve next year solely from the addition of a full time coach.
Yeah, they need a full-time coach, I think. And I've been saying for a while that I'd like to see I compete take over scoring more. He needs to be a lot more aggressive with his scoring. And even in this game, usually he's a guy who gets like 11, 12, 13 assists a game. Only 4 assists today. He got out assisted by Smooth and Deeds, which shouldn't be happening for your third overall
Yeah,
pick.
yeah, you've been saying it from the beginning of the season, and I concurred with you early on. Don't disagree. And it was apparent when he tried the shot creating slasher that he just didn't have that will to dominate the scoring that say Boo or Hotshot, mostly Boo, does. Um, and yeah, compete. He likes to score, but he just hasn't found, I think, the exact line that he wants to be at in terms of what percent of the offense he wants to fully control.
Yeah, it's like I think if he did take over more in scoring, like this would be the perfect team for him to be on to do that because you have your second guy in Mr. Slaughter, who's also going to put up a bunch of numbers, and then you have some pretty good, role players, complementary players in Deeds and Smoove and Tiffy, who can chip in some secondary scoring. So if he had just done that, like I said, I think this team would be in a much better position. But he's just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's always just been that kind of guy who looks to facilitate more than score. But I think he needs to have a bit of a mentality change. If well, maybe too late now, but for next season, if he wants to elevate his game and elevate his team, he has to be that guy, especially for a third overall pick. Uh, moving on. Raptors Uprising 77, Cavs Legion 55.
The Raptors, yeah, they did work in this one. Um, Kennedy got the fourth ever triple double. He needed that late rebound to do it, but he got it. Um, but no offense has been able, I think, to so successfully integrate the shot creating slasher into their offense and be able to balance it as well. Because while Kenny runs the show for large parts of the game, he's able to step back and cede control of the offense to TS Josh at times. All Hell Trey is vastly underrated, and as I
Yes.
posited, might just be the best pop guy in the league. Deadly shooter, very very versatile. You're going to see that in the same column while I'm really plugging it. Um, but yeah, the Raptors just played great in this one. Held the Cavs, who are flagging a little bit, to only 55 points, which is not a number of points that the Cavs can score and hope to realistically win games.
Yeah, Hood only 21 points, which you'd expect a lot more out of him. They did the little pregame interview
Yeah,
and
that was funny in retrospect.
they they asked All Hail Trey if he can guard Hood, and he said, "Yeah, he's going to show him down." And Hood laughed. And 21 points is nothing to sneeze at, but it's not exactly the dominating
He
performance
he who laughs
we've
last
come to
laughs
expect.
best.
Yeah, he obviously needed to score more because 55 points isn't going to do it most nights. But really,
They had
just
that bizarre toxic at what was it, power forward sharp rim.
yeah, I don't
I
know.
I guess designed to guard Kenny. Let's cut out these gratuitous lineup changes and yeah, just yeah.
Yeah, Cavs are another team where they've switched up a lot. Pretty much everyone has played multiple positions. Been an interesting season for them, but they fall to 7-5. They're now in sixth, but I think they're good to make the playoffs. Raptors Uprising though, now 6-6 after starting 1-5. Josiah, they're 5-1 since then. A brutal early schedule, but you still got to win games. But at 6-6, they're behind only on point differential right now for that seventh seed.
Yeah, this is definitely a position that they would be ecstatic to have been in after that 1-5 start, which as we all kind of knew was just mostly the product of a terrible schedule. But they found some good balance. And they're getting rewarded for it with wins, and I think they are a team that I would be not eager to face in the playoffs if they do make it. They've got the Grizz next week, which is an eminently winnable game, if you approach it the right way. And then they've got the Heat, which they might be desperate enough at that point, and the Heat not desperate enough at that point to pull that one out. So they could well do it. They could well be in the playoffs.
Yeah. Final game of the week. Blazer 5 Gaming
Oh,
94, Kings Guard Gaming 91.
oh boy, well, yeah,
Ugh.
you can talk. You
Ugh.
talk about this one.
I I didn't actually get to watch this game as it happened, and then I saw the clip, and the clip of
Of
the
Andrea Bargnani pulling up for three against the Bucks with a 2-point lead and 12 seconds on the clock. That Andrea Bargnani clip. Oh
I felt a
boy,
pit in the bottom of my
so
stomach
sorry,
looking at
man.
that. I felt a
So
pit in
sorry
my
for the
stomach.
man.
I can't
That's
even imagine what Cole World and the Kings
that's
felt.
that's
And this is 2 straight weeks. They should have won last week against the Celtics. And they should have beat Blazer 5. And they just couldn't do it. And it's just a mess. And oh, it almost gives me a headache thinking about it. Just how unfortunate that is. Because this team looks so much better with what they've been doing, and they can't capitalize on it.
yeah, it's yeah, I don't even want to go back over it. But as I did say to Colt, putting him at point guard was one of the best in season shifts and changes that we've seen, just because it made the Kings watchable again and fun and potent, and kept them in these close games, only for them to not prevail, shall we say?
Yep. As and how about Moody? He's been playing well at that center
Great
position.
clear paint. What is it? Full eyes, clear paint. Can't lose unless by close, excruciating margins. Is that the saying?
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, I'll look it up
But
after. But
second time in a few weeks, I think he's outplayed Walnut at center.
you've been good.
Walnut has 31, but it was on 27 shots. And Moody had the block at the end of that overtime, and then no one was on shots. And he cleaned it up.
Boy.
It hurts to think about it.
Out there,
That's painful.
yeah. They're another team that'll be better and more fun next season throughout as well.
Yes.
They'll have
Not
for the full season. They won't have the same immense pressure and hype on them from the beginning, which
yes.
probably is going to play a big role next year.
And I've been saying since I think the tip off that this team needs a coach. And they have a coach, but they need a guy who knows 2K, I think. Would really be a huge benefit to them, because this isn't the most composed team under pressure as we've seen.
Nah.
So
Now submitting his application. Will Beverina.
sign me up. No, don't sign me up.
Team
I would tank that team.
Teams could do a lot worse.
Maybe. I don't know about that.
But would you not take that job if only how could you not take that job if only to be on flights with that team?
Yeah.
That's a terrific gig in and of itself.
Yeah. I think that little video that Moody posted of like Colt talking to the person in front of him
That's going down
about leg
in
room.
history.
Like there have been a lot of like little like hilarious like real life moments in the league this season, and I think that clip is only second to when Rico asked Speedbrook to get some scented candles, and Speedbrook came back with birthday candles. I was crying laughing when I saw that.
I mean, you could have two jobs for them. You could, on the one hand, you could be the coach. On the other hand, you could be Colt's personal vlogger. That
Yeah,
would be
uh,
that's a good gig.
they better hope they open a West Coast studio.
Yeah, yeah, that'll really help them. Yeah,
Yes, because that team more than any other has just been screwed hard by travel arrangements.
yeah, it yeah, it it's really not been fair to them in a sense, but you got to cope with it. And certainly another West Coast team hasn't suffered as much.
Yeah, true. Yeah, exactly. Uh, well, that's it for week 10. Josiah, which team were you most impressed with in week 10?
Um, it's a good question. Um, Frankly, I'm impressed with the league. I'm always impressed with the league every week it seems, but I want to say the Pacers putting up 100 plus. But I'm gonna say the Raptors for holding Hood down and really this was a make or break game for their season, and they stayed afloat commandingly.
I was gonna pick either the Pacers or Raptors, whoever you didn't pick. So I don't feel like picking someone else. It was those two, keeping their seasons alive when they really needed it. Most disappointing teams in week 10, Josiah.
Um, Three guesses for mine.
Celtics gaming.
Oh, really? Is that your actual guess?
I mean, there are a bunch of candidates. It's not exactly
I was, I
obvious.
was, I was gonna say the Mavs putting up 58.
Well, I mean, Celtics had 102 dropped on them.
Yeah, the Celtics. The Celtics. Fine, you take the Celtics. I'll take the
The
Mavs.
Celtics, the Celtics had a point dropped on them for every player in the league.
Oh no, that's not true. Shocky. Bam. Save.
Well,
Save.
there's still only 102 players in the league, Josiah.
But there have been 103 who have.
I said for every player in the
Well,
league,
you know what?
which implies
But
currently.
certain players are on reserve contract, so yes, you're right. You're right. Fine. Whatever. Whatever. I'm not gonna die on this hill.
Don't
Fine.
play the semantics game with
Take the
me.
Celtics. I'll take the Mavs. We'll agree on the Jazz as well, and that'll give us a full 1, 2, 3 of the 2018 NBA 2K League draft to commiserate about. How about that? How about that?
Josiah, let me ask you a question.
Ask me a question.
I've already made my thoughts clear on this. Is it over for Mavs gaming and Jazz gaming?
Yes, yes, yes. It is over. The long nightmare is coming to an end. I mean, I think the final embarrassment for the Mavs would be to have the Kings beat them again. Not again, but
I mean, the
no,
Kings
no, no.
are good
Yeah,
now,
right.
though.
The Kings are good, which is going to make it that much more embarrassing for the Mavs, who still think of themselves as a good team and who are a very talented team, but who probably are still approaching things with the earlier in the season mindset. And earlier in the season, the Kings weren't so good. But
The Mavs, who still think they're a good team, what an insult.
they're a talented team. I mean,
That was harsh.
I'm, it's harsh love. You got to be hard on the teams that you have the highest expectations for. And I think the Mavs are every bit deserving of their high expectations. And so I'm hard on them when I see them not live up to them at all.
Yeah, I've said multiple times that no, they're not going to make it. We talked about this last week with, I think the general consensus right now is that you have to be 8-6 to get in. I'm starting to think that a 7-7 team could sneak in at that 7 seed, Josiah. Do you think that could happen?
Yeah, the scenarios in which it happens are limited, um, just because of the fact that you know there are so many of these teams, and you really do need to distinguish yourselves. But you know, no one has a very easy schedule among the 6-6 teams. Um, so, and I think among the 6-6 teams, in a sense, we have to include the Pacers, um,
Yeah,
because I can see them winning another game right off the bat.
we'll say the six lost
Right, the
teams.
6 lost teams, exactly. Um, you know, no one has a supremely easy schedule the rest of the way. So, a couple three-pointers fall, and yeah, a 7-7 team could make it, but um, I shouldn't go into the playoffs with much confidence if I only had 7 wins. But you just got to reset.
Yeah,
Come playoff time, you got to reset, but you got to get there first, I suppose.
a lot of it comes down to like how the matchups go and how like what's like legitimately possible because that's way too much math to for my brain to try and,
I'm working on it.
sort out.
Excel is not fun.
I know you are.
I'm laboring away, but
Josiah, I write because I can't do
oh,
math.
I am the same. I am the same.
So that's why I don't have an Excel sheet of
It's
of all the
nasty.
playoff possibilities.
1,024 lines, all different combos.
Jeez.
But I
Uh,
color coded at least, which makes it
that
okay.
sounds miserable.
You you
That
should have
sounds
seen
miserable.
my formula bar. It was like 3 lines of ifs.
I don't even want
Yeah,
to
it's
know.
bad. It's very bad.
Out of the six lost teams, I guess I'll ask Josiah, who do you see making it in? Because it's probably gonna be one of those six lost teams that makes it into that seven seed.
It's an extraordinarily difficult question to answer because
Yes,
you have the Wizards who can just put up points straight up. Boo is that good. They're that 5 out team though, so I'm not eager to say them. You've got the Celtics who are kind of the opposite at their best. They distribute the ball better than anyone else in the league. Fab is a huge part of that. Um, but they're kind of shaken. They certainly haven't been as good in the regular season as they have been in recent tournament play, and perhaps that will change in these do or die situations late in the season. The Raptors have been so good lately, and as I said, they have a really balanced offense. They're playing great defense, but man, the Pacers, have, the Pacers, the Pacers actually, if we give them a win, if we say they're 6-6, they have the best point differential out of all those 6 lost teams. Um,
oh
and,
wow, yeah.
and they play well. They play really, really well. They play very solidly. It's going to be tough. Here, but how about this though? Is there any way that two of those teams get in and the Cavs don't? The Cavs are going up against the Celtics, which is a huge game, and then they're going up against the Magic, who are hardly pushovers. So,
That's
so
interesting.
I wouldn't count them in quite yet. Would not count the Cavs in quite yet. It's going to be excruciating for whichever 6 lost teams don't make it, but unfortunately, a lot of them are going to not make it. Are going to have to miss it.
Well, the interesting about those six lost teams is like the Wizards and the Celtics probably have like a higher ceiling and probably like more overall talent, but the Raptors and the Pacers are playing a lot better lately than both of those teams.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I guess it depends on what do you put more stock in. And it's hard to tell in this league because you can be playing well and then just start blowing it like the 76ers, or you can playing awfully and just turn it around like the Raptors. So no one knows anything in this league, Josiah, I guess is my point. And it's almost futile
Yeah.
to talk about it.
Prediction and
But
prognostication is uh,
here we
best
are.
left to the psychics and those willing to dare it. Um, I preferred, to look back and just do my little tactical analysis and leave it be.
Uh, it's it's gonna be fun though. It's gonna be a blast, man. This
It's gonna be great.
I honestly like it's kind of I don't know. I kind of almost like it that the Knicks won the ticket because it makes this so much more interesting than it would have been if there were 8 spots.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think of a fitting line from The Dark Knight because I'm sure there is one. Something about everything devolving into chaos and something like that. Um, and it fits also because New York is Gotham, so
Wow,
it all comes together.
all comes together. I mean, phew, it's gonna be fun. I mean, we can't even if we're talking about the Cavs maybe not making it in. It's not like you can automatically count Magic and Heat check in either.
No, no, not at all. But those teams have been playing better, and
Yes,
they need less help next week to actually qualify for the
true.
playoffs. I did run those numbers a little bit. The Cavs do need an extra level of help from the 6-6 teams to actually cement their spot. So the the Heat and the Magic are in a better place, which is not an incisive comment. The,
Well, the Heat play Kingsguard, who look pretty good, and they've got a guy who I'm sure is going to want to guard Hot Shot in Timely Cook.
right,
And
but
Magic
go ahead.
plays Pistons, who are second place in the league right now.
The Pistons have an insane slate for next week. They go up against the 76ers for basically the winner of this game inside track at second overall seed, and then they play the Magic, who are, fighting for the third seed in that game, right? If the if I'll pull up my old chart here. If yeah, the Pistons need to win one game, and they would much rather win the 76ers game. If you have to pick one game to win, you beat the 76ers, okay? If you're listening, beat the 76ers. Um, yeah, but the Magic are a good team, and the Pistons have an excruciating schedule. But I was about to make a comment until I was distracted by my color coding. Um, right at this point, I think you mentioned the matchups, but I think it's more about your team itself and than the matchups you're going up against, especially if you need to win two more games to have a realistic shot at the playoffs, which I think is what you're looking at if you're a 6 loss team. So I think it's more about the teams themselves and what they can bring to the table and how much they can get out of themselves in terms of the playoff push.
Yeah. Speaking of Week 11, what's a matchup you're really looking forward to? The one matchup, because there's a lot of good ones. What's the one matchup?
It's that Pistons 76ers one, just because of its incredible implications. It doesn't have a serious 5 out team. It has one very good offensive team at its best in the 76ers and one very good defensive team at its best in the Pistons. So it's one of those interesting, strengths on weakness matchups in that, or in a sense, really, it's a strength on strength because the offense is going up against the defense. But in this one, which is more important, is a better defense for the Pistons. What will win them the game? Is it having a defense that is more than capable of handling the 76ers offense? Or are they accepting of, just having a defense that's able to offset the 76ers offense, and at the same time they think they can bring an offense to the table that can defeat the 76ers defense? So that's just always a fascinating thing to watch for me.
Josiah, I cannot wait for Bucks gaming, Warriors gaming. Nah, I'm joking. It's got to be
Ah,
Cavs Legion Celtics
well,
crossover.
that's a good one too. It's a good one too.
Two teams within a game of each other at sixth and eighth place right now. That one has some major implications. I mean, every game except except for Bucks Warriors.
Yeah, yeah, that one,
That's
If
like
you need to take a
the
really long snack break
that's like the
next
least.
week, that
That's like
is your snack break.
that's the most inconsequential game we've had in a while, I
It
think.
definitively is. Definitively is the least consequential game that we have until week 12 when you'll get either two playoff teams or
Yeah.
two non-playoff teams going up against each other, which
And I hate to
is going to
rag
be the
on them,
Bucks
but
again. I'm sorry.
I hate to
No,
rag on them, but
I'm a fan of the Bucks.
uh
Ah,
gonna be fun. Can't
gonna be
wait.
fun.
Any last thoughts, Josiah? Anything you want to get off your
And I
chest?
feel like I've thought a lot so far. Thanks for sticking with us at this point, listener. If you've made it this far, uh,
Yeah, no kidding.
hopefully you're doing it on iTunes too. Uh,
Yeah.
any more thoughts? Just the old mantra: identity, integrity. Stick true to your team, and you're gonna get positive results.
The wise words of Josiah. Identity and integrity, folks. Hire this man as a coach.
Again, as with you, teams could do a lot worse, but no, you know what? That's beside the point.
All right. Well, I guess that's it then. Josiah, tell the people where can they find you and your content.
You can find me on Operation Sports. I write about the NBA 2K League, if that wasn't already clear. You can find me at tsn.ca, where I do a weekly column on the league and also just do general stuff for the site. And you can find me on the Twitter at AJ113_OS.
You can find me on Twitter at Will Beverina, Beverina. I run Dimer2K.com, write about the NBA 2K League. Don't do a lot of writing, actually, about the league these days.
Yeah, I was
I have
sad to see you're doing a little less, or
a
you said that
new job
exact. Well, yeah,
taking up a lot of my
of course.
time. I, I, I drove through, I just drove through 2 hours of traffic before sitting down and discussing the 2K League with you here today, Josiah.
I'm
But
flattered.
follow Dimer on Twitter at Dimer2K. I still putting together some graphics and stuff and things like that, making GIFs. So there's still some value to be had there, I suppose. But thank you everyone for listening. If you stuck around, really appreciate it. Hopefully you're listening to this on iTunes or something other than YouTube. If you are listening to it on YouTube, that's just as good though, I suppose. So thank you for all the support. Really appreciate it. And can't wait for week 11 and week 12. All right. Have a good one, everyone.